When one is horrible, it means that there is nothing that is objectively good and progressive that will come out of such individual.
If you have been convicted of an offense before and you have been pardoned, and anybody is trying to bring that up against you and calling you a convict, you have the power to sue that person for defamation.
Justice must not only be done, but it must be seen by all to have been manifestly done.
Every citizen has a right and every citizen has an obligation.
That a plea of atrocious acquit or convict is very different from the plea of pardon.
Trespass is that act that interferes with the peaceful,
no matter how minute,
no matter how minute.
He who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Hello, you're welcome to another fresh episode of the program Justify Nigeria on ACNN Television, reaching you from Abuja. On today's episode, our subject of discussion is on the legal concept of contempt. My name is Anozechi, your anchor. The word contempt generally means disobedience or disrespect towards authority. Legally speaking, contempt of court is where a person who is a party to a proceeding in a superior court of record fails to comply with an order made against him or an undertaking given by him. In another development, when a person, whether a party to a proceeding or not, does any act which may tend to hinder the course of justice or show disrespect to the court, contempt of court has been committed. A cursory look at some conduct of litigants oftentimes showcases commission of contempt. In our discussion today, we are going to look at the general overview of contempt, what could constitute it, how does the court frown at it, types of contempt, punishment and penalty that could arise from it, and possible ways to avoid committing contempt of court. Joining me in the studio now to address all this is Barrister Deborah Ngozi. She's an Abuja-based legal practitioner with over 14 years of experience. She is currently the coordinator of Sweet Mothers Worldwide Abuja chapter, a non-governmental organization that focuses on children and women fight against domestic violence and rehabilitation of drugs and rape victims. And is also a member of Unity Bar here in Abuja. You are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We talk about contempt, and oftentimes you agree with me that there are some lawyers out there, people that are not lawyers, that are viewers, that may not know what contempt is all about. Can you just give us the general overview of contempt? Let's start from there.
Yes, when you talk about contempt of court, it has to do with that action or an attitude or an action or use of words that is being put up by somebody that is a party to a proceeding that disrespects the court, the use of words that abuses the power of the court. In other way, a party that is not a person that is not a party to a proceeding can put up an action that hinders the administration of justice. The main purpose of this is when it hinders or obstructs the administration of justice. That is contempt.
That's contempt.
Yes.
Okay.
When it ties the hand of the court, that court cannot be able to administer justice properly, is a contempt.
It means that contempt on its own is also disrespect to court authority.
Yes, exactly.
That's just simple what it means.
Yes. But I want to differentiate it that I disagree with the hints of the court.
Okay, why do you say so?
That I disagree with the hint of does not constitute a contempt. Okay. Like in a case where I argue my matter, it's not a must that I will follow. A lawyer has his or her constitutional rights to do his matter the way he wants. That I decide not to follow the hints of the court or I argue my matter does not constitute a contempt of court. So it's a different thing altogether.
Thank you very much. Now, this contempt we are talking about, you are just giving us a short overview. Are there types of contempt?
Yes, there is.
Please, may we know
there is. Yes, there is one they said that is being committed in front of the court and outside the court. We know as in-facial Korea, and the one outside the court is ex-facial Korea.
You know, you are talking to some.
Yes, I'm talking about. Yes,
so please, he said it's in-facial Korea.
Yes, inside the court.
Inside the court.
When the proceeding is being taken by the court.
And there's one ex-facial. Please explain them.
Yes, so the one that is being committed in when the court is taking its proceeding. is like, for example, when you see some lawyers, they stand up, they use some words that are shouting. Even judges will be like, cancel, mind your words. But because the tension is there, he's shouting, he's talking to the court disrespectfully. And even, for example, when the witness is in the bus, you ask him a question, he keeps quiet. That is contempt.
That's contempt?
Yes,
I thought he has a right to be mute.
No, you don't have a... Sometimes the judge will say, Mr. A, can you answer that question? Some will prove stubborn.
Okay.
Not to answer the question that the judge even called the attention to answer. They will keep quiet.
So that is contempt.
And when another thing that we do is answering our phone in the law court.
That's also contempt.
I had an experience where the judge caught a litigant and said, you don't allow me to charge you for contempt.
What did he do?
He was answering boldly, making call with his phone. And the judge has to stop. So, contempt in the face of the court is that attitude, that words that he uses that disrespect the court when he's taking. You know, the environment of the court is a quiet environment. And when that quietness is interrupted,
contempt has been committed.
It has been committed. Sometimes it ties the hand of the court not to function properly. That is contempt.
Okay, and that is the one you said is...
In facial Korea.
Okay, in facial Korea. That's the one committed before the court.
When the court was taking its proceedings.
Okay, that's number one.
Yes, number one.
Then there's the one you mentioned.
The ex-facial Korea, the one outside the court.
Okay.
That is the normal one that you see when a lawyer, sometimes lawyers, the opposing counsel may file his process in court. The other lawyer will fight or put up a very nasty attitude to stop the matter from going on outside the court. That is contempt. And the one that the bailiff of the house is being stopped from doing his statutory.
Who is a bailiff?
Bailiff is the staff of the court that is in charge of serving processes.
Okay.
To the litigants.
Okay, all these processes,
yes,
statements of claims.
Yes, that is his statutory duties. And when he is being obstructed, it's contempt. Like when they serve content to the process to some of the litigants, you see them, they put up a fight. So we even tear the process.
And that is contempt.
That's another thing is publication. That is content and publication. Like in the issue of WIFO panel during Babangida regime, when Ray Ebo used a word that the WIFO panel is a kangaroo tribunal. He was charged for contempt.
So that alone is contempt as well?
It was a publication that would mean he was charged straight away. Contempt.
So once you commit anything outside the court, it's also contempt. So is the material, whether it's inside the court
or outside the court, anything that ties the hand of the court not to administer the justice properly is contempt. Because and this contempt is intentional. It's very, very intentional because you as a lawyer that is using those offensive words and putting up that action to make sure that the justice is being hindered, you know that is contempt.
Anything committed before outside the court is contempt, provided that those things are hindering the good dispensation of justice. And when we come back from break, we are going to hear from Barrister Deborah other types of contempt and the things we need to do to avoid committing contempt in court. Please do join us again. Hi, you are welcome to the speaker on ACNN television reaching from Abuja. The speaker is a platform by which we treat some topical and happenings issues surrounding the country. On today's segment, we are looking at commendable Nigeria or condemnable Nigeria. My name is Anozichi Nomsu. When something is commendable, it means that that thing is admirable, laudable, applaudable, and worthy to be praised. This means that to commend is to appreciate for a job well done. It needs to be expressed that before one could be commended, there are positive things or antecedents of his or her actions that have affected humanity either directly or constructively. On the other hand, when one is condemned, it means that there is nothing attracting or good that will come out of such individual. That is why the people suffer in a condemnable nation, community, or land. With the kind of frightening things happening in Nigeria, I'm persuaded to ask on whether we are living in a commendable Nigeria or condemnable Nigeria. When Nigeria has ceased to be a nation of justice, peace, and security, and has turned to be a nation of vulnerability, injustice, insecurity, and constant spilling of blood of the innocent citizen, is a perfect example of condemnable Nigeria. In a situation where our political elites occupy position of authority in government have become political liars instead of leaders, is an indication that we are living in a condemnable Nigeria. In the epistle of St. Paul to Galatians chapter 3 verse 1, Apostle Paul was asking Galatians, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you, that you should not obey the truth?" I think Nigeria should be asked the same question. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That you constantly produce cheaters instead of leaders every 4 years after general elections. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That killing, kidnapping, and raping of innocent women and children by bandits and kidnappers is now a welcome development. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That bandits and Boko Haram is now the order of the day. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That your leaders care less about the welfare of your citizens. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That truth is now treated as lies and lies now treated as truth. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That some of our governors are negotiating with bandits and kidnappers to release their captives. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That you no longer obey court orders. Nigeria, who has bewitched you? That you have a president who is for everybody and nobody at the same time. All these are painful and fundamental questions we refuse to ask ourselves. How can it be that while other nations are thinking on how to improve their economy, Nigeria is thinking on how to improve on the welfare of cows? How can it be that other nations bear Federal Republic as their official name, and Nigeria nowadays bear the Republic of Animals, and further went ahead to enact laws in favor of the same animals? How can it be that our political leaders have succeeded in turning Nigeria upside down? How can it be that a strong and healthy economy we once had has turned to be one of the poorest economies in the world? And that is why $1 is more than 500 naira as of today. How can it be? How can it be, and how can it be? It can only be because we are living in a condemnable Nigeria. A condemnable Nigeria is that Nigeria that has security architecture is no longer working. A condemnable Nigeria is that Nigeria that produces a silent president even in the midst of crisis. A condemnable Nigeria is that Nigeria that produces horribles instead of honorables. A condemnable Nigeria is that Nigeria that has affinity of electing political thieves into public offices. A condemnable Nigeria is a Nigeria where the government has made borrowing a source of income and has converted same as a political engine oil in which the affairs of the country is being run. A condemnable Nigeria is that Nigeria that shuts down telecommunication in Zamfara states as a means of tackling insurgency and banditry. What a shame. What a condemnable Nigeria. I think it's high time we sought spiritual help from God, because Nigeria problems has gone beyond ordinary. It's now spiritual. I am conscious of the fact that the existence of the nation's maturity is dependent on the extent of its spiritual responsibility. In order to justify Nigeria, I therefore speak. Until we all begin to ask ourselves some fundamental questions and think on better ways to solve our problems, have a positive mindset towards issues, become more concerned on the affairs of Nigeria, and collectively work hard in order to ensure that the lost glory of Nigeria is finally restored, we shall continue to live in a condemnable Nigeria instead of a commendable Nigeria. My name is Anozie Chinomso. I just want to speak. Glad to know that you are still there, and we are still here in the studio with Barrister Deborah. Counsel, before we went on a break, you have explained what contempt is all about, and that of the one committed inside a court and outside the court, provided that it hinders the dispensation of justice, whether inside or outside, that's contempt. But now, we want to ask you, can a contempt be criminal in nature?
Very well.
How?
Very well. Section 133 or sub 4 of criminal procedure has stated it. Anything where it stated about the speech, even at that section 1334, there is punishment for it. Although there is a civil aspect of it, but we are concentrating on the criminal nature of it. It is. Because when you look at section 1334 of criminal code, it spelled out the offense and the punishment. It covers it. Anything contrary to that in section 1334 of criminal code,
that contempt becomes criminal.
Yes, in nature.
Okay.
So that is the nature of it, section 1334 of criminal code.
So it means that once any contempt committed that is not contained or captured in that particular section, it can be civil.
Yes,
it can be civil in nature.
Yes.
But once it falls within the ambits of that is a criminal one. Thank you very much. Now, we now ask you, can contempt of court be challenged? Look at what I mean. Okay. Maybe there's a contempt slam upon a litigant or even a lawyer. Not necessarily you, it can be you, because I know you obey the rules of the court. But you now see that the person is aggrieved. Why should I be slammed this? Why should the judge say that? In fact, the judge went ahead to pronounce punishment. Can that particular contempt be challenged in another court?
Yes, like every other, you have a right of appeal, like in any other case. If you feel that, no, this judgment is not supposed to be, you go on appeal. Like the one I used about WIFO panel. When they went on appeal, it was quashed. Another example is when the two security officers that in case of Delegiwa was discharged by the court. Ganifa Wami, may his soul rest in peace. Went on appeal, it was quashed.
Okay.
So you have your rights of an appeal. You go anywhere. Appeal.
Okay.
You can challenge it.
So it's possible to...
Very possible. Okay. You can challenge it anywhere.
Okay, because, because you are making us to understand that we have, because one, you have a constitutional right of appeal
that is your
to challenge any decision. So once a judge pronounces punishment based on contempt, it doesn't end there.
Yes,
you
and you don't want, that is not, you feel that is not what you did. You go on appeal.
Yes. And it can be quashed over there.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We are going to elaborate on this particular point. Okay. We have seen contempt. We've seen the types of contempt. We've also seen the nature that oftentimes it can be criminal or it can be also civil. And you have also told us that it's not permanent. That is to say, the judge, a particular court, does not have final say when a punishment has been prescribed onto somebody. You can also have the right of appeal because that is the constitutional right of every citizen. Now, tell our viewers, what are the possible ways to avoid this contempt? Because I believe, even you as a lawyer, that it's better for you to avoid something than committing and seeking redress. What are the possible ways of avoiding this contempt and your general advice to our viewers?
Okay, generally, there's no the issue of contempt cannot be avoided, but you can put yourself. Like this content is like check and balance. You check yourself, but you cannot say that you can't. It cannot happen. Take place. It must definitely happen. But when you are before a court of law, all of us, we have our constitutional right to respect constitutional right of each other. Like the CJ Edo State then, Chief Edo, he put up a write-up. Is it contempt or abuse of judicial powers? In his paperwork, when he was lecturing, he said one thing. He said that the judicial officer, the judge, that should appreciate the constitutional right of a lawyer and a litigant. That you, as a judge, that you have that power, does not mean that you will use it recklessly. That you must appreciate it. That you should be able to differentiate between a contempt of court and the one that is not a contempt of court. That a counsel refuse to follow your hint does not mean that you just immediately, because you find some people when they will just charge the person for contempt. No. And you as a counsel, we are lawyers and ministers in the temple of justice. We live by example. Whatever your client sees you do, he will do it. So we as ministers in the temple of justice should you know, be matured in the use of our words. You should be matured in the use of, because this thing cannot be avoided, but you can you can curtail it by your act. No matter how the judge presses you, the word is maturity. Calm down.
Somebody will say,
calm down.
Be calming down.
Yes, calm down. Don't use abusive word that even a layman, when looking at it, will say, this is so annoying. So we ministers of in the temple of justice should please curtail the way, because whatever we do, the public are watching. They feel that if this lawyer can do it, what is it? He's right.
Then you have given the advice to the judges and of course lawyer. What about litigants? I don't have to involve
litigant is yes. Know that whenever a process is being served on you, it is your right and this is the responsibility for you to take it, receive it. Don't put up a fight. When you are in law court, there is always an instruction. Make sure you obey it. Anything you are doing, when you are in a law court, guide yourself. Don't do it. Your lawyer is there to take your matter. You don't have to be forward or to say something, because sometimes in the court, you see the litigants, they are just talking. Then the judge will be like, counsel, didn't you enlighten your client? So you as a litigant there, anything you do it with caution. Know that anything outside this, you can be charged for contempt. Whether you are outside or inside, once you are before the court of law, my advice for you is to put up a decent attitude, no matter what. Even if you don't understand anything, just keep quiet. Or when you don't understand anything, you can say, I don't understand. They will explain to you. Don't try to fight the court official that are doing their constitutional or statutory duties. Don't put up a fight, because you will not find it funny if you are charged for contempt of court. You
will not find it funny if you are charged for contempt of court. It is therefore the advice of counsel, the barrister here, that we must comport and conduct ourselves properly, whether before or outside the court, in order not to hinder the right dispensation of justice. We want to appreciate you, for coming. And I pray when next we call you out of your busy schedule, you oblige us.
I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The essence of establishing courts is to dispense justice to humanity at all times. It is expected that litigants and people who come to temple of justice to seek justice must comport and conduct themselves in a manner that suggests that they want justice. This is because one of the maxims of equity is that he who seeks equity must certainly do equity. It is therefore advised that whenever you are before the court, you must conduct and comply with all the rules and order of the court in order not to be in contempt. It is further advised that you do not commit any act outside the court that may suggest a hindrance in dispensing justice to humanity, for such acts or acts may constitute contempt of court even when it is committed outside the court and in the absence of any judge. When your character and conduct before the court is both commendable and dignified, complemented with good case, the court will justify you by judicially and judiciously dispense justice to you. This is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of Justify Nigeria. Join us same time, same station, another fresh episode of the program. Until then, this is Anozie Chinomso wishing you the very best, and bye for now. When one is horrible, it means that there is nothing that is objectively good and progressive that will come out of such individual.
If you have been convicted of an offense before and you have been pardoned, and anybody is trying to bring that up against you and calling you a convict, you have the power to sue that person for defamation.
Justice must not only be done, but it must be seen by all to have been manifestly done.